engaged as we interview 3 candidates for the position of city manager. We all know that the city manager role is an integral role in the city of Anniston, and we look forward to picking the best person possible. Before we get started, I will ask Councilmember Harrington to bring us a word of prayer. Please stand.
City of Anniston, Heavenly Father. Lord, we think we know all things, but really we know nothing. But you know all things, Heavenly Father. So we look to thee tonight, Heavenly Father. But one thing we're sure of, you said, if we would look to the hill from which cometh our help, all of our help come from thee and thee alone.
Yes,
bless our understanding tonight, Lord. Bless these applicants tonight, Lord. And bless the city, Heavenly Father.
Yes.
Have mercy on us, Heavenly Father. Bless, Lord, with the blessing we stand in need of this night. For this blessing we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen and thank God.
Amen. So before we call Mr. Freeman, I'm going to give you a quick run of show. We have 3 applicants that we will be interviewing on today. We will start the interviews with Mr. Free, and we will continue in alphabetical order. The second interview will be Derrick Swanson, and the third interview will be Jeffrey Thornton. Each council member, starting with Councilmember Downey, we'll ask a couple of questions. We'll have an opportunity to do so, and we'll go from there. Councilmember Harris will not be in attendance due to her having a surgery on yesterday. However, she has sent questions, so when it is my turn to ask questions, I will also ask hers as well. We're ready for Mr. Free. And just for the record, Councilmember Harris sent me her questions to my phone, so I will be looking at my phone when I ask a couple questions. Good evening, Mr. Free. How are you?
Good evening, ma'am. How are you doing?
Good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. And everybody else too.
I'll just give I'm sure everyone in this room knows the city council, but just for you to know, I'm going to give an opportunity for each council member just to state their name and what ward they represent. We'll start with Councilmember Downing.
Mr. Free, thank you for being here. I'm Lewis Downing. I represent Ward 1 of the city of Anniston.
Nice to meet you, sir. Likewise.
Mr. Free, my name is Demetrius Roberts. Demetrius D. Roberts. I represent Ward 2 currently.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joe Harrington. I represent Ward 3.
Nice to meet you.
Councilmember Harris, I stated a little bit earlier, she will not be here with us. She represents Ward 4. She had surgery on yesterday, but she has prepared some questions that I will ask during my time. And my name is Sarah Smith, and I serve as the mayor. So, no jitterbugs. This is really an informal conversation. We want to get to know you more. This is an extremely important position for the city of Anniston, and so feedback is welcome. Don't feel like you have to perfect your answers. We'll just go ahead and start this way. If you will, just kind of introduce yourself, anything you would like for us to know, and give us a little bit of your professional background, and then we will start into the questions.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Kenneth Free. I was born right here in Anniston, Alabama, at Anniston Memorial Hospital back then instead of RMC. Grew up here in Anniston, joined the military at 17 years old, and went out to find myself, I guess would be the best way to say it. Started out as an enlisted member in the Army. Changed over when ended up becoming a chief warrant officer. Did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, leading troops there, was awarded a Bronze Star, and before I left, I worked at the Pentagon directly for Admiral Mullen, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So 20 years as leadership, working my way up from an E2 private all the way up to a chief warrant officer 3. Commanded numerous organizations throughout my career because in the organization I was with, the warrant officers were the commanders. So I was, familiar with day-to-day operations, managing and leading personnel. When I retired, like I said, I was at the Pentagon working for Admiral Mullen, and I was awarded the Defense Superior Service Medal for my 20 years of service. From there, I left and went over to the U.S. Department of Commerce. Started my career in the federal government there. Learned a lot about the Department of Commerce that I didn't know, like the tourism side, some of the things they did. I always thought it was just moving goods from one country to another country, things of that nature. But tourism side really was a eye-opening experience and something, I think can relate to current, positions now. I stayed there for 3 years, and I was offered the opportunity to move up to a director position with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So I moved over to them, and I think it was around 2014. Started working there in Washington, D.C. I worked for the Secretary of HUD. From there, I would go out with him nationwide, or him, or actually it was, we had a couple of different secretaries, different administrations. But throughout that period, I was actually, like I said, I would travel with the secretary going through cities and communities nationwide, seeing a lot of the challenges they were facing, some of the wins they would get with community development, how they were doing things different than other communities, what was working here, what was not working there. 2019, I had the opportunity to move back to Alabama. My daughter and family were actually here in Anniston. My kids grew up here in Anniston, so I was always back and forth here. But my daughter was a junior in high school, and I'd always promised her that I would try to get back to the area. So I moved back to the Alabama area in 2019, and I became the state director for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And in that position, I was the liaison for the elected officials, city council members, all the leadership of Alabama. I was the head HUD person for them to come out and to communicate with everyone about HUD programs, HUD opportunities, grants that were coming out, even as far as like with housing authorities, going with them and negotiating sometimes between cities and the housing authorities if they were having working relationship difficulties, things of that nature. So it was really a overall approach where I actually was involved in all of the programs that HUD had to offer. I had to be knowledgeable of them, and I had to be able to go out and speak on them, and also represented the secretary. So I would come out and do speeches, grand openings, things of that nature. I was also given the opportunity to be a deputy regional administrator. Excuse me. In that position, I covered the southeastern United States, 10 states, and pretty much it was the same position, except I was over the whole southeastern United States. And in that position, I got to even expand a little bit more and go out to North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and work with communities in those areas with housing and urban development. So bringing all that together, based on my leadership style and the leadership training that I've had throughout the years, 20 years in the military service, one of the key things I always like to emphasize though is when I retired from the military, I left the military rank there. And what I mean by that, a lot of times you'll see people go from military to civilian side, and they think they're still an officer or the sergeant major, or they carry that rank with them, and it don't work. I've been very successful in all of my career. I've never had less than an outstanding or an excellent rating in any of my positions since I was 17 years old. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Mr. Free. We'll start with questions.
So thank you very much, Mr. Reed. Thank you very much for your service.
Thanks, sir.
That's quite federal work.
Thanks.
We've got some kind of some questions that are going to be universal to all candidates that we can ask. But I guess that I would since you were expounding on your career with HUD, I guess I would just ask how you would use the experience gained with HUD, how you would and could use that experience here in Anniston.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, I understand the position that I'm applying for. As a city manager, I work for the panel. I'm sorry. I work for the city council and for the mayor. I understand that you set the policy and I implement it with the overall day-to-day operations of the city. Coming from my HUD background, one of the things that I think I can bring to the table is more money, which is always helpful. And what I mean by that, there's lots of grant opportunities out there that a lot of communities across, I would say the nation, that they don't take advantage of and apply for. I think that's the key thing as, if I'm selected for this position of city manager, is to making sure that Anniston as a city is putting in for every opportunity that is out there. Because the more money we receive, the more money the city council can set policy and do things for the constituents of the community. So that's one of the things, is making sure that we're applying for every grant, and not just for HUD grants, for all the federal organizations, Department of Transportation, any grants that's available, we're applying for those. And I've been trained in grant writing. I can write grants myself, and I have no problem spending a night here writing a grant if it comes to that. It's one of those, my leadership philosophy is I'll lead from the front and won't ask people to do something that I wouldn't do myself. Other aspects of HUD is knowing, understanding the housing authorities. I know we got a Anniston Housing Authority here. We've faced some challenges with tearing down Glen Abbey. Some of I guess there were some issues with the soil, so rebuilding would be a challenge in that area. Affordable housing, so understanding the effects of affordable housing, the process of going through that. I know Anniston right now does not have a CHODO. That would be maybe an opportunity to get some more affordable housing in the area. So just opportunities like that from the community development side. Making sure, I know we're entitlement city. As an entitlement city, we get about $750,000 a year. Making sure we're utilizing all those funds and not giving anything back to HUD. Or to any of our other funds or grants that we get. Because in my career, in my positions in the federal government, I've seen a lot of times where communities have given money back, and I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that never makes sense to me. So that's one of the things I would ensure, is making sure we're utilizing all the funds that are given to us in the time limits and the span and the oversight of it. And from the HUD side, I think that's really the experience that I could bring to the table for the affordable housing, for the grants, working with the housing authority. And then from the community development side, it's one of those where I've worked with communities all over the Southeast and Alabama also. Okay, what can we do to help bring in more businesses? What can we do, like Main Street America? I've been a keynote speaker for them at different events, and I know Anniston's got a great Main Street program. I've seen how Anniston, the downtown area, has evolved over just the last few years. Really impressed by that. So that's some of the things that I bring to the table, and the knowledge is working with these organizations, not only at the lower levels, but even at the upper echelons of the government level.
Thanks, Derrick. And so just to follow up, you mentioned affordable housing, which we're in dire need of here.
Yes, sir.
And so I guess I would be interested to know your philosophy as far as how you would relate affordable housing to the community and economic development.
Yes, sir. Some of the programs I've seen, and some of the visions I think may work for Anniston, is as we're developing areas. I know we got the Summerall project, things of that nature, to make sure that we're building a percentage. If we're building apartments, complexes, and things like that, that we do a set aside and have a percentage that's dedicated to affordable housing. HUD used to have a program called the Hope 6 project, and there's you go over to Birmingham, and you don't know which units are market rate units and which units are affordable housing units or subsidized units, and that's the way it should be. Everybody should have the equal housing, and it shouldn't be, oh, those are the red brick HUD houses over here. So I think that's the way to incorporate that, is as we build and expand, housing, if we're building market rate apartments, work with the developers to, incentivize them to, okay, let's put 10% of the market rate, or 10% of the housing for affordable housing, and incorporate it into that nature. Other things I see here in Anniston, I hate to say, you see affordable housing here, and some of them so dilapidated they shouldn't even be lived in. Revitalizing some of these areas. One of the things I saw in one city that worked out well was where they went in there and used city funds to renovate one house in a neighborhood. Once they did that, it started catching on with the others. It was pride in the neighborhood. Other people, okay, $2,000, here's a grant for that, and I know there's a new grant that just came out for here in Anniston for repairs and everything. Little things like that help build that neighborhood up, and it ended up just, you could see it actually growing, that each street was getting involved in it, and a lot of them were using their own funds. to make their house look nicer and things of that nature. So when I think of affordable housing, one, I think it should be quality. It shouldn't be the ones where I wouldn't want my mom living in. That's always the standard I always use. So that's what I look at when I think of, how that would be incorporated also with the new.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on. Councilor Roberts.
Mr. Free, also I'd like to thank you for your service and everything you've done for this great country.
Thank you, sir.
So you're from Anniston.
Yes, sir, I am.
So, and it's gonna sound like a silly question, but it's probably the most serious question I'll ask tonight. What would interest you in being the city manager, being from Anniston, being from the generation you're from, seeing what Anniston has gone through, seeing where we are now? What makes you the right person at this time right now?
Sir, I think it's my background. I think by me going into the military at a young age, at 17 years old, it shaped my life, it shaped my future, it shaped my vision of what life was. I was born in the 70s. Anniston was going through a lot of transition during that time period. I've watched the transition. I remember coming down Noble Street with my mom shopping. Every shop in on Noble Street was filled up. Saturdays, you're walking down the street, shopping days and things like that. That's what I remember, and that's what brought me back here. Why would I be the right city manager? Because I think my life experiences is one of those where I left. I went out and I've experienced the world. If I would have stayed, I'll tell everybody, I started work at Food World at 16 years old, the one up here on Quintard. I got friends that stayed here in the grocery business. If I would have stayed here in the grocery business, I would not have the background or the experience that I have. It would be a totally different experience. But working in the military for 20 years and then changing over and going to the federal government with the Department of Commerce and then ending my government career with HUD, it changed everything I view in life. And like I said earlier, even about affordable housing, the standard of, okay, where would I want my mom to live? I probably wouldn't have had that vision if I hadn't went this route. So this route has actually, I look at it that it built my resume for this job. Because with the military service, I got the leadership where I can lead the 401 total employees. I know it's broken down with part-time and full-time, but I can be a good leader, make sure the team's built, make sure we're holding people accountable, making sure it's a fair process, and making sure everybody, one of the biggest things to me is customer service and courtesy. Everybody should be treated with respect. And it goes both ways. They shouldn't be yelling at city employees, but city employees should be very respectful because the citizens are our customers. Things like that is what I learned throughout my career. One of the philosophies I like to give is I had this at HUD, what am I going to do today to make HUD better? And that's what I would bring to the city of Anniston, and actually instill that in each employee is each day you come to work, what are you going to do to make Anniston better today? With 400 employees, if they did one thing for the week, that's 400 new things that would help the city and make it a better place. Little things. I mean, it could be as simple as I'm going to go pick up things that's in park today. So going back, I know it's a long way around back to your question, but if my career didn't take me the path I did, I would have a total different outlook on everything and how the city has evolved. What I've seen in the city, like I used to talk about when I was a kid, every storefront was filled. We went through a time where nobody was on Noble Street, it seemed like. But now it's actually turned the other way. I think Main Street has helped a lot. You're seeing businesses come, renovate, there are places down Noble Street, and as you see that, it's going all the way down Noble Street. So I think that's how my experience has shaped me to be a great city manager if I'm selected for the position. I can bring all that experience that I've seen, the leadership from the military, the tourism side of commerce. I know we got some great tourists with the mountain bike trails and the Ladiga Trail, things like that. I know so there's great opportunities there. And that's what I see, is that's what shaped everything. And then going to the HUD side, that let me see what, I guess, what people are suffering from a lot. When you look at, homelessness, and I know me and you did the pit count together. The point in time, and it was Councilwoman Smith then, but now Mayor Smith, we were out there, counting homeless people together. And once you do stuff like that and work with the homeless population and hear their stories, it changes your whole outlook on life, your philosophy on life, and everything. So I think that's what really shaped me throughout all the years of my life, made me different from the day I left here at 17 years old.
So, appreciate that answer. A follow-up question is, so you mentioned affordable housing.
Yes, sir.
I'm one of the opinion that Anniston has an abundance of affordable housing. What we don't have is, and I'll define affordable housing in a second, but what we don't have is housing that would be attractive to someone coming out of college or a new executive coming into this area. Now, what I say that is, there's only a couple of places that a young hotshot executive would want to live in Anniston. So now when we get to talking about affordable homes, affordable housing, because of the market, because of the amount of money that it costs to build new facilities, new homes, that basically prices most of the communities in my ward and Councilman Harrington ward out of the box. Being with the hood, I know for a fact our current housing authority has about 54 properties. A couple of years ago, of those 54 properties, about 51 were vacant. How would you give me a scenario where we could try to strategize a useful mix of the housing where it can be affordable? Because what's defined as affordable in a lot of places, when you look at Anniston, is not really affordable. Most of our city is below the poverty level as far as when it comes to housing and stuff. So how would you tie that in and try to, with the grants and stuff, what would be your game plan for making every community in Anniston have standard housing as well as the affordable housing mix?
Yes, sir. So one of the key things I look at is, like you said, what's to entice a young businessman or woman to come to the city of Anniston and live. One of the first things people look at when they look at moving to a community is crime, the crime rate, things of that nature. What I've noticed, being from Anniston, observing Anniston over the years, we have a reputation for crime, but the crime stats is not as bad as a lot of people might think. We have acquired a bad reputation. Because I'll hear people say, oh, Anniston, don't move there, it's bad. And I'm like, I know a lot of places that, there's murders happening every day. And, so I think that's the first thing I look at, is when people want to move to an area, they look at crime, then they look at schools. School systems of what education opportunities are available to my children in these areas. I went to Welborn High School. I grew up I went through Calhoun County school system. When I look at what can entice people, I look at first our downtown area. I think we got some great opportunity there to look at some zoning requirements, things of that nature, to offer some loft apartments, things of that nature, where some of these executives could live downtown. With that, you're looking at, now we're opening more business space as far as restaurants, bringing in businesses that's going to support these young business women or businessmen as they move to this area, where they can go downstairs and grab some, food and drinks of that nature and things like that. That's sort of what I've seen happen, like even in Huntsville. Huntsville, you look at their downtown area, I was stationed at Redstone from 2001 to 2004. Their downtown area was almost a ghost town in some parts of it. Now you go up there and it's one of the highest cost of living areas in Huntsville. Everybody wants to live downtown. Now what you're talking about of spreading the wealth to all of the wards, to me, I think is one where we have to sell the opportunities. And what I mean by that is a lot of these young businessmen and businesswomen, a lot of people want to be homeowners nowadays. And if we offer opportunities like that in safe neighborhoods, it shouldn't matter what ward, because all wards should be treated the same as far as police patrolling, the safety side of it. So if we got, and I know we have a lot of vacant lots in Anniston where the blight's been removed, that's some of the opportunities we can look at of incentivizing people, hey, move here. You don't have to build a 4,000 square foot home. You could build a 1,000 square foot home. And as a single professional, this would be a great opportunity to you, a great investment opportunity. And it would be great for the city also, because now we're getting new housing stock that's not, like you said, affordable housing, and they can live there, and as their family grows, they sell it and move on. One of the things I've noticed at HUD is with families, if you look back at the 60s and 70s and stuff like that, you would have a 2-3 bedroom house with 4 or 5, it'd be 900 square foot, and that would be your family home. Now everybody wants the 4,000 square foot home, when reality-wise, the 900 sure, does the same purpose. So that, that's some of the vision I would have, is some of the opportunities like that of taking some of these vacant, the land in vacant areas, and offering that opportunity and doing some incentives for people to come here and build homes and be homeowners.
Thank you, sir. That's all. I'm pass it on.
Mr. Free, how you doing, young man?
Good, sir, and yourself?
You too young for me. What was your initiative when you went in? What was your MOS?
I started out as field artillery, sir.
Lord.
They suckered me into it because of there was a reserve unit here in Talladega, and then I went and became MP.
Okay. With your military background and law enforcement background, how would you improve the community, police and community relations here in Anniston? Not saying that it's bad, but how would you improve it here in this area?
Yes, sir. With my, when I was a federal agent with the military. I was an Army CID agent with them. With my military, or with my law enforcement background, what I see works well. And what I mean by that is, people always say that if you see something, say something, things of that nature. But we all know sometimes people are afraid to do that. They're afraid what's going to happen if they do come forward. And that's where should be out there talking to the community, walking the streets, talking with the kids. Kids should not be scared of a police officer. It should be one where when they see a police officer come, oh, that's Officer Smith. I should go over and say hi to Officer Smith. That, like I said, that's one where I think that is the scenario that I would see for Anniston. And like you said, I don't see major issues or anything like that. But it would be one where I've seen that approach, and I think that's really the best approach, is where the police officers are working hand in hand in the community, being a part of the community, and have them where it's a, open, back and forth where, they making sure you're taken care of and vice versa. Today my son's very first day with the Gadsden Police Department too. He's on patrol today. so he's in that field also as a police officer.
And that is true, because something you said earlier about, and I'm sure they don't have patrols there anymore, but they have to go where they actually need it. But
Yes,
the officer the community should know the officer there within their area. The second question having to deal with management skill and operational skill. I've only been here a short time, but I hear 2 meetings we're working on. If the colonel came to me and says, Joe, tomorrow morning we have a briefing. It's 6 in the evening. I don't go home till the briefing is ready for the next morning. what needs to happen. How's your management skill when it comes to operations? Without operations, you don't have anything. You don't have a set pattern where people can be assured that if I go to City Hall today, they give me an answer today, I go 2 weeks later, I'm gonna get that same answer. What will your operational skills be for the city?
First of all, sir, is accountability. I'm accountable to you and to the mayor and to the other council members, and the leaders should be accountable for their actions and the accountability of their subordinates. What I mean from the military side, it's one of those where how do we get there? You know, I don't know if we're there yet or not, because one of the things I've always learned is every time I went into a new position as a leader, you don't come in and make changes day one. You watch and see what's working, what's not working. You get the input of your leaders. But one of the things that I learned throughout the years as a leader is, one, you hold people accountable. If they're doing their job, you praise them for it. If they're not doing their job, you let them know. If I don't let you know you're not doing a good job, how do you know that? And that goes all the way from the top level leaders that I would supervise, all the way down to the lowest level workers that, you know, is being supervised. Everybody should be counseled, quarterly. They should receive performance evaluations. In my position, I should receive a performance evaluation from you. And with those performance evaluations, we're looking to see, are they meeting the standards? If they're not meeting the standards, then what do we need to do? One, to get them to meet the standards. And if we put time, energy, training, resources into these individuals and they're still not meeting the standard, then we have to do what we have to do and remove them and put somebody in there that will meet the standard.
I only had 2 questions, but you answered my last question.
Sorry, sir.
Because of the fact, excuse me, but I was looking for a short answer because I have a short attention span. So, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr. Free. Kind of going off of what Councilmember Harrington said, one thing that I can identify only serving as mayor for the last 3 months is we do have an internal issue. And so we need a strong city manager that is going to come in with a strong management style to really address some of these deeply rooted problems so that we can move this city forward. So my question to you is, how would your former colleagues or employees describe your leadership style?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, participatory. It's one of those, like I said earlier, it's one of those I will not ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself. I'll work as hard or even harder than any of the employees that work for me. Because if I'm doing that level of work, how can they complain when I ask them to stay over or to work later to get a report done that I need or to meet the standards? So that's my first leadership style. Second thing is every person, well, there are a few, but I would say 99% of the people that have worked for me as a supervisor, and I've supervised thousands of people, the biggest compliment is they call me and say, can I come work for you again? What I've learned over the years is people will, a lot of times, don't leave the job. You know, a lot of times you'll see, oh, this is the lowest paying area, this is this. A lot of times they don't leave the job, they leave the supervisor. Because if the supervisors are taking care of their workers, then it's gonna show. Those employees, you know, if they're making $15 an hour, they're gonna be like, yeah, but I'm treated so good. You know, I enjoy going to work every day. And that's the philosophy and, you know, the way I've always done is if I don't feel like I should be going to work today, it's time for me to leave, you know, or it's not right for me to be there. And that's, the morale is one thing with an organization. You have to address that. Like you said, if you got poor performers, you give them an option. Either you're gonna move your performance level up to this level where it's at least successful, or we need to move you on somewhere else. Same way with leaders. You're either gonna lead and be a good supervisor, or you need to not be a supervisor. And I see that the federal government was notorious for this, of a lack of training for their supervisors. As you know, sir, in the military, to become a sergeant, you go through 6 to 8 weeks of training. You move up, and as you move up, I probably have had 3 or 4 years of leadership training. Most organizations don't have that. And that's something that I would bring in to this, to the city, is making sure we're training the managers to be good managers. I mean, that's the first step of it. Teaching them how to actually talk to their employees and, treat their employees with respect. It goes back to that was the main thing, is it's always respect. No employee should ever be yelled at. I might be upset with somebody, I may be disgruntled with them, but I'll never yell at them. Because when you start yelling at somebody, they stop listening. You get a much better response when you go to somebody and say, hey, look, I'm really disappointed in you. You did this, this, and this, and we should have done it this way. Let's fix that. And, and that's it, and it just works out a better way. So I'm a strong leader. I'll come in and I fix problems. I've done that with every job I've ever had, and I've made every organization I've ever been with better. Yesterday was my last day with HUD. It was one of those where I was offered, they were offering some incentives for retirements and everything else, and I just felt like it was another chapter in my life ready to be written, and hopefully it may be here.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one of Councilmember Harris's questions, which you did answer a couple of them already. You state that you're decisive yet diplomatic. Please provide an example of an issue in which you were decisive but diplomatic. I believe you said that in your cover letter.
Yes, ma'am. One of the things, working at the levels that I've worked throughout the years, one of my mentors was Dr. Ben Carson. I worked with him for 4 years directly. Being decisive is the key thing. And even from the military side, being in Iraq, Afghanistan, I'm leading troops in there, and I'm making decisions that could cost me or them their lives. So it's not one of those of, oh, let me think about this, and I'll let you know tomorrow. If you're basing your decision off of experience, the information you're provided, and you make the best decision that's in front of you at that time, then make the decision. If it's the wrong decision, stand up and own it and say, hey, I made that decision. I made it in good faith at that time. Found out later it was the wrong decision, and I own that. So I think that's the decisiveness. The diplomacy part of it, I guess, would actually sort of be that also. Owning if you made the mistake or you made that decision, own it. That's the diplomacy side. Now, as far as this program manager might not like this decision I'm making, and especially like with budgets and things like that. The diplomacy side of that, fire department needs this, the police department needs this. As a city manager, you're the one deciding how, who's getting what. One of the things I've always said is I don't like working behind my desk. One of the things I've done with every organization I've done is I go to every department or program that works under me and work with them. Not to micromanage them, just so I understand what they do, what their needs are, and even talk with them. That even, like I said, every worker, should know who I am, be able to approach me, not be scared of that. So that's the diplomacy side of it, is being diplomatic where I make my decisions. It may not be popular with everyone, but I'm able to back it up, and if it's the wrong decision, accepting that also.
Thank you. Counselors, do you have any additional questions before I ask my final two?
Dennis Zakchiski?
Was that, sir?
Dennis Zakchiski. Darren Megabot.
So of course, obviously, you've worked for the federal government. So, but I'm asking every single candidate this. But you'd also be surprised if you were offered the job. We will be conducting an extensive background check. Is there anything that you would like the council to be aware of?
No, ma'am. I've had a secret or a top secret clearance for basically my whole life.
Thank you. Do you have? We'll give the opportunity for a closing statement, and if you have any questions for the council.
I'm pretty much, like I said, I've worked with you. I understand the city. I'd like to do a closing statement, but I don't have any questions of the council at this time.
Absolutely, you can go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to thank each of you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you all for considering me for this position. Like I said, I wanted to make it clear of why I left each position. I retired from the federal government, or I retired from the military and then moved over to the federal government. And to me, I wouldn't say it's the final chapter of my life, because that sounds sad, but it's one of those of being back home in Anniston and being able to bring my knowledge, my experiences that I've had throughout the world, back here to help be, be a part of the city growing and moving forward. I think that, that would be a great final chapter before I retire. So, thank each of y'all for your time.
Thank you for your service. I've enjoyed working with you the times that we have, and I appreciate you for being willing to step up to the plate for the city of Anniston. We will make the decision at a later date. I don't exactly know that date right now, but it will be put out publicly.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Swanson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Good. I want to give you a quick background of exactly what we're going to do or run a show. You will have an opportunity to give an open statement, give your professional background. Each city councilor will have an opportunity to ask a couple of questions. Councilmember Harris is not here due to a surgery that she had on yesterday, but she has submitted questions specifically for each candidate, which I will state towards the end. Before we get started, I will have each city councilor introduce themselves, just so you're aware of who is here and what ward they represent, and then you will have an opportunity to begin. Councilmember Downing.
Good evening, Mr. Swanson. Thank you for being here. My name is Lewis Downing, and I represent Anniston in Ward 1, which is kind of far east and northeast Anniston.
Demetri D. Roberts. I currently represent Ward 2, which is comprised of half of West Anniston and some of North Anniston.
Take your seat, young man.
Appreciate that.
I'm Joe Harrington. I represent Ward Number
And I'm Sierra Smith. I serve as the mayor of Anniston. For public record, I would like to say that I worked at the city of Talladega for 2 years. While at the city of Talladega, I worked under 3 city managers: Cedric Hill, Chief Warwick, he'll be so mad at me that I forgot his name, as well as Derrick Swanson. I served under him for about 11 months as his executive assistant. Mr. Swanson, if you would like to move forward with an opening statement and give us a little bit about your professional background.
Greetings, council members. One thing that I want to tell you all this, as well as the entire city of Anniston, is I'm thankful for being here. However, there are some things that occurred recently beyond my control. Those things came into existence while I was on sick leave. I was terminated Monday. I was not there. I could not rebuttal to anything that was said about my character. My character is this. I don't have much money. My character is all I have. I worked all my life to build my name, credibility in the state of Alabama, and I think I've done a great job doing that. Sometimes the media can get things twisted, especially when you cannot yourself stand and say, is that true or not? I didn't have that opportunity. So I wrote a little something. I'm not going to read it all because I know I'm on a time frame. However, it's important for me to get you all to understand, as well as everyone else to understand what happened in my eyes.
It's also as important, Mr. Swanson, for us to understand, so please take it up.
Thank you, sir. What I wrote is this, and this actually came from the heart, you know, in saying that I fell in love with a city that didn't love me back. Now, there were 2 city council members that really, I can say that when everything was coming, they kind of let me know. And that's unfortunate to say it like that, but that's how it was. It's like I never knew what was going to be expected from city council meeting to city council meeting. As stated, I was terminated Monday, September 29th, while being on sick leave. I couldn't be there to defend myself. The thing about Talladega, you can fall in love with the culture, because I was able to see young men and women that's trying to better themselves and make a career out of themselves that's deaf and blind. So if you have passion, and I know what I'm here for, and I'm a servant. I mean, hands down, all of my career, if you looked at my resume, that's all you see, pretty much a servant. I could not do but 55 to 60% of my job because of their strengths. However, I am so very proud of everything that was accomplished. They threw goals at me, short-term goals, and if anybody knows what short-term goals are wins. They should be something that the council put out there for that individual to make sure that the citizens see exactly what we're doing. But no, these short-term goals was a measure of saying to make me fail. It was put out there that there was a few short-term goals completed. I have them, and I brought them with me, and anybody who want to see them, they can see how that really is not the truth. Not only on that, I brought with 50 plus additional goals that I was working on for myself as a city. And I'm so proud of how many of those that were completed. One thing about effective governance, it requires respect, communication, and collaboration. Too often these critical elements have been absent. The city manager's office, when I was in Talladega, was faced with a lack of support, a lack of respect, and a lack of effective communication, which I asked, how do you want me to communicate with you all to make sure we're on the same page? I never got the answer. One of the councilmen said by email, that's all I got. How can I be effective if I can't get communication? The absence of a clear written plans have hindered accountability and slowed progress. One of the things about when the violation of the code of conduct is very simple. I was faced with a situation when I first came that instructed me to fire the police chief. I can't do that because that's a directive and that's going against what the code of conduct says. One thing about me, and if you follow that resume, I grew up in public safety. And I say grew up because I was a teenager when I joined the fire department back in the day. I grew up in public safety. Going from being a paramedic to fire chief to now being appointed by Governor Ivey as the first African-American fire commissioner on the committee. And I find that to be an honor and a privilege. I was able to work in law enforcement to see that side of law enforcement so I can know exactly what they do. So, in other words, it's equipping me to make sure that I can make the right decisions. Not only that, there's so many other things that I can tell you, but this is what I want to bring to your attention is this. I'm a person of integrity. If it's wrong, I'm not going to do it. I don't care what that risk is, and I've always been like that. If it was January 27th stick out of my head, I'll never forget that day. Because that was the day that one of the council members brought forth to terminate me without cause. No cause, just because. And I'll tell you why. Because this same council member went to an employee, which is a direct against the code of conduct, and asked her to investigate this employee who was from another country. And it caused all type of turmoil within the organization. So I did what I had to do as city manager, and I documented it. From that, trust me, she's had it for me ever since. Said it on record, said every single thing that, in other words, sitting here, we're sitting in the office, I asked her, what does she have against me? She said I didn't do what was instructed for me to do. Fire you? Well, we're gonna fire you. I said, okay. Now, I don't know how many of y'all will feel if you're waking up in the morning every single day that you had to come face, still with a city, you have to come to work and show your employees that you're there to make sure that you develop them properly, and you're gonna do everything in your power to make sure that that city moves forward. It was very difficult. Every single day, I have a daughter, depend on me, she go to Tennessee State University. She depend on me every single day. She called me the other day crying because she found out about this, but I told her, Dad, it was gonna be good. My point is this. I appreciate everything that Talladega did. However, I could not function like I should have been able to function. If I can only function at 55% to 60%, there's no way you're gonna move that city forward. If I don't have a plan of action or this plan, and for the council to understand what a strategic plan is, how do you get that strategic plan and put it into a comprehensive plan? How do you get those KPIs or those key point indicators and make sure all of it fit? That's my job, to make sure I convey with the mayor and convey it to you all. In order to move forward, I have to have communication and feedback. I never was evaluated, been there over a year and a half. I don't know which direction they wanted me to go. The only reason I receive short-term goals because of January 27th, because I had to put my hand down. And I hate to say go back and look at the footage. I hate that because it brought out a side of me that's not me. But I can't let nobody just run over me like that either. So what ended up happening is some goals were set for me, short-term goals. And again, if you know the definition of short-term goals, there are many wins. But they were set up in a direction to make me fail. I didn't fail. Everything was brought before the council. It's up to them to, as you all know, to say yes or no. They said no on certain one of them, I can't move forward. All right? But the ones that I was able to accomplish is well over 95% of them, right around that mark. And any of those documentations that we happy to share all of that. So in saying that, I wanted to put that out there to you all, so you all can have a full understanding of what happened and why. And that I've worked my behind off y'all for my name and my credibility and what I've done for not only ACCMA to win the Sam Gaston Excellence Award. That's an award given to the top administrator. I won that. And you don't do that. Sam is not going to give that award out, or the ACCMA is not going to give that award out if it's not something that they know for a fact that that person is producing. Also, by me winning that award, they asked me to sit in on the Alabama City County Management Association's Board of Directors, and I'm currently sitting. So those are some things that I must say. I had to convey to you all, because transparency for me is it. Didn't have much coming up, but mother always told me to tell the truth. And that's what I do. And live by example, and always raise somebody up that don't have as much as you have. I don't have much, but every single day I look at trying to make sure I can raise somebody up or develop that person and develop that talent and make them dream. So in saying that, I appreciate the opportunity that you all allowed me, first of all, before we get started with any questions, to tell you exactly, in my eyes, of what has happened in the city of Talladega.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. We are going to move forward with the question portion. We will start with Councilmember Downing.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson, again for being here. And I will speak for myself and say that your character is not on trial here. Your character is not on trial with me. The only thing that we are here to determine is your qualifications in regards to the city manager position. So I just want to get that. I would like to clarify that with you and me personally. Mr. Swanson, in your resume, you mentioned your experience in establishing the city informational and how you ensure transparency as related to city goals and financial matters. Something that is very important to this council is transparency and ensuring transparency and ensuring that there is not even the perception of untransparency. So how would you go about supporting that? And would you just expand on your experience in your work?
I really appreciate that question. When I say city informational, some people call them town halls. I love the word city informational simply because it's a newer concept. It's the same concept as a town hall, but what it is that the transparency of everything, for example, the short-term goals that were given to me. It's an opportunity for me to call to present those short-term goals to the public. Council members be there, they're welcome to attend, but also it's important for the community to know exactly where we're headed, how far we are, and how far we have to go to make sure that we meet those destinations. One thing about it is, whatever you all design, create, it's my duty to carry those duties out. We meet behind closed doors if there's something that need to be changed or altered, but at the end of the day, once you tell me that now, it's time for me to make sure that those goals are being transparent, not only with the citizens, but if we have to post them and get with PIO, making sure that they're on the website properly with all updates. Diligently, I did that. Of all the short-term goals that we actually created, this was the 7th update, and I did one every single month while I was there, and even finished up with this past month. I actually create one, make sure that you all have a copy of the text message. You want all 3 of them. I am perfectly good. My only concern is making sure that we communicate. And that's really it. That's that transparency of saying where we are, allow the citizens to ask questions as needed, but provide them the data that they need so that they can understand, and for me to clear it up in the direction that we're headed.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rogers.
Oh, Mr. Swanson, I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to apply for our city manager position. And I truly understand exactly what you mean when you say you try to build your name, you try to build integrity. Your name is all you have. And when somebody intentionally just tries to soil your name for whatever reason it may be, it kind of puts you in a flight or fight situation. And when sometimes you have to dig into the fight, I appreciate you bringing that out. I'm going to ask one of the questions I asked the last candidate. What makes you feel you're the best person for the job here in Anniston? Why Anniston? And why you? Why now?
That's an outstanding question. One thing I pride myself on is being able to come into a situation that may need assistance. Let me clarify and clear that up. I always told, and I always do tell staff, because I've been a servant pretty much all my career. I love chaos. I'm not that person Well, let me clear that up too, because I don't want you to.
Welcome to
Yeah, let me clear that up. Because of my background, I'm always being able to think on the spot. You know, being in the fire service, still a paramedic, being able to just think and being able to see exactly what LE or law enforcement do and how quickly they have to react to certain situations has really helped. So in other words, I have equipped myself if I know that I have a weakness, and I love to even do a SWOT analysis on myself. What are my weaknesses? So I can make sure that I work on them. And I found out what they were. And therefore, guess what? I work on those to make sure that I get better. I have what they call an internal strategic plan. That internal strategic plan actually allows me to communicate directly with the department heads. A lot of times you can look at a city and say, wow, you drive through it, you see all of these amenities. But when you actually get into the nucleus of it, it might be something in there, that foundation is not solid. My job as city manager and what I like to do is coming in and doing analysis. I ask 3 questions, but that's just the questions I ask. Once I find out those 3 questions, I'm ready to perform my analysis. My analysis is being completed almost, and I'm ready to perform something that is proven that works. If we get communication with the department heads, with the vision of what you all have established, there's nowhere we can't go. That model city is true, will be a model city. Because when I see and hear that name, it drew me in. Model city, I think of that abroad, right? So I'm actually looking at that possibility of saying this. I would love to come and establish and make sure that we establish that mission statement, that vision statement, that motto, and core values, so that the world can actually look at it and see. They're looking at Anniston already, because you're already on the map, there's no doubt about it. I can bring certain things in to the nucleus of making sure internal operations are strong, making sure that the foundation of this great city is strong. And a lot of times, you can have toxic employees in an environment that really can cause some real problems with the organization if you don't have measures in place to control that. So in other words, if we're going to be that model city means that the world come and ask us what we're doing so we can tell them what we're doing, we can show them what we're doing, because we are that model city. There's so many attributes that I can just offhand that I can say.
Okay.
That's what attracted me to the city.
I appreciate that great answer. One of the things you said during your answer, you mentioned the strategic plan. And over the past, well, during this council's administration, the council that was elected administration, we went through a comprehensive planning period. We also went through a rezoning period. Heard you mention comprehensive plans. And there are things that we're doing. A lot of the time, the public don't really understand the direction of a comprehensive plan and what it's designed for. One of the things I found out, I served on the planning commission, I found out that it said our city is about, I think, 4 or 5 coffee shops short of where we should be. And we sit here in coffee shops. I don't want to doggone coffee shops. That's what I hear when I could talk to my constituents and tell them, hey, come on, coffee shops. How, and we understand a strategic, a comprehensive plan is something that takes about a 5-year look at your city and tries to project where it will be, but we also know it's a moving document. Do you have any experience with a comprehensive plan that you've inherited that you were able to continue to move it forward, or even if you have any plans of helping develop a comprehensive plan? for a city, for.
Thank you for that question. One thing about any plan, whether it's comprehensive, strategic, even the one I'm doing, internal strategic plan, it has to be communicated directly for an understanding. There was a comprehensive plan when I came aboard with the city of Talladega. It was passed recently, a 10-year plan. Some people have 5-year. Some people have CIPs as 5-year. One thing about it is the constituent. You're saying coffee shops. It could be any number of things that the community may want. But that comes back with PIO going and making sure we get feedback to actually see what direction you want to go. One thing, I'm glad you asked that question. One thing that I have worked on is the city of Anniston's unified strategic and comprehensive plan. I already know that something is in place, but through communication and making sure that where we are, we have to look at benchmarks. We have to look at exactly where we are right now to make sure. I like to say this among council members, and this is what I like to say. My job is to make you all look good. Whatever that entails, to make sure that if you plan on getting re-elected, it's my job. We're going to put everything that's out there to make sure that those plans, those comprehensive plans, and it's being followed. It can't be something that's on the shelf. It has to be implemented. Don't put anything in writing that's not going to be implemented. Because a shelf-ready policy does not mean anything if you're not implementing a comprehensive plan. So, to answer that question and going back to, we're talking about making sure that the community understands that. So it has to be broken down into those city information so that they can truly understand it. Not only them, but making sure that the council is on the same page as far as, is this something that we're progressing? It can't be 20 different things we're going after for that plan. It got to be specific, and it takes work. Because you're going to have to do a feasibility study on a whole lot of different things to make sure that is what we need for our city. Not a want, but a need. If it's a need, yeah, it's going to be wants. That's what we go after as a team, to make sure that we actually put that in there. But the existing plan can always be revised. And this is how I do it. I do that internal strategic plan with department heads. That internal strategic plan then moves steps forward to the strategic plan of the city. But you got to be able to combine the two, and then being able to unify the strategic plan and a comprehensive plan to make some sense out of it. So in other words, if it's 5 years, 3 years, or 10 years, the progression of why you are in office has to be shown. It has to be shown where exactly we are. We're moving toward that direction, because if not, it's going to make you all look like, and make me look like we're not doing anything. So through that part of it, we go back to city information to make sure that we're showing that we are progressing through. If we had to bring somebody in from the outside and pay money, me and money get along very well. I want to make sure that we're very good stewards as far as what we do, whether it's going to be grant money, which is a good thing, partnerships, or it's going to be something coming out of general government type funding, and definitely we're going to have to be good stewards of that as well, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Swanson.
How you doing, Mr. Swanson?
I'm good, sir.
You mentioned in your previous statement about amenities. My question will come from economic development and infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
You're aware of the number of activities we have. We have Woodstock Run, we have the bike trails, we have the trails. One of the issues that I have with that is that we provide the resources for that. But what happens is, they come in and use our resources, but they go stay someplace else. They go eat someplace else. So what would you do? What ideas would you have in order to ensure that those personnel who come here to take advantage of the amenities that we provide, that their dollars stay here and not go someplace else?
You know, that takes an effort from not only us, but the entire. It's showtime. You know, that's it. In other words, we know the playbook. We know, in other words, the rules, regulations, and policy. But at the same time, how do we keep these these people here. One of the things after researching that I did, the most economic impact on the city of Anniston, I determined it might be 4 Club. I'm just being honest with you. And I can easily give you all a copy of this if you want to. But the key economic development plan and how we actually utilize that, along with our bike trails, that's going to be so important. I haven't had my bicycle, I couldn't tell you last time I rode it, but I know for a fact I'll bring it out because of the bike trails and different things that we have in this community. What we have to do, we can't do this by ourselves. I can't do that by myself. I can bring things to you to say, how will we make sure that we capture our dollars? Well, there's IT software that's out there as well that can actually, if you have an event, and you can actually tell the proximity of where these people are staying. And that's one thing that we will make sure that we can actually do that I'll bring forward after getting with them. And we'll say, hey, they're staying here, they're staying here. Geographically, where they're staying, we'll mark it. We know exactly where they're staying. Then we say, well, okay, if they're staying there, then what the world do they have over here that we don't have? So we got to make sure that we get out there and market our city to make sure they come back to our city and not be like, well, we're just coming here, take care of business, but we're going over here to another city to spend tax money. No, we have to look at that. But it takes an effort. It's not going to happen overnight because we have to perform an analysis of where they're staying and what they're doing and how much tax dollars are we really losing, getting an approximation. But also after that, we come up with a SWOT analysis, and that could be a threat. But it also could be an opportunity. And then we look at what strengths do we have and the weaknesses, and we do all of that. We do a SWOT analysis so that we can really find out what's going on. And I bring that information back to you so we can capitalize off those tax dollars. I don't want to lose nothing. I love revenue, and I love tax dollars to make sure that we get what we're supposed to get.
What I'm looking at is that what they have that we don't have.
Yes, sir.
We don't have hotels.
Okay.
We don't have a restaurant. So what has to happen is we have to acquire those to be able to keep those dollars here in the city of Anniston, rather than everyone else. My next question is looking for a short answer because my attention span is short.
Yes, sir.
Police community relations. I asked this to the last person who's here. Police community relations. That is very important because there has to be communication between the community and the police themselves to ensure that each is doing their job. We have probably become the issue. I would say the issue is that there are communities whereby, and I tell this to my churchmen a lot of times. I'm not going to tell police officers that you've done such and such thing in my community. Well, I'm going to tell you right now. If you do it and I see it, I'm telling you. Because of the fact that's the reason our community do not grow. What would be your take on establishing a good police community relations if you are selected as city?
Well, I hope I can sum this up, sir. I really do. We had a situation where I just left at, and police chief was actually sworn in if he had got terminated. That's the one I selected. We did a process, and we actually ended up putting police chief in place. But however, when I was there, we targeted, I wanted to know the high crime areas and the areas that we really had problems in. Went to the interim chief and I said, well, and we met with those particular areas that was high crime and asked could they, apartment complexes, allow a police officer to stay in them. We hired this particular police officer. That's where he wanted to stay. He wanted to go in the high crime area because his dream is to be on the task force. So he's not afraid. No police officer should be afraid. But to answer your question is, we have to know, I have to know what is going on in the community so we can make a sound decision. Community policing means that we are there, we are present. We're getting to know the people. This guy goes over there, he walks the community, he knows the kids. Kids were at one time afraid to come outside because of the dope. But I can guarantee you right now it's totally different. His unit is parked there, he lives in that area right across the street, he walks that beat. Do occasionally hear a gunfire? Yeah, but not like it was. Because once he hears it, he's in that particular neighborhood. And also, they're assigning, what they're doing is getting with that property owner to actually make sure, see, the big thing about that whole thing is kids. You know, if kids are scared to come outside, not only kids, but you have citizens who are scared to come outside. I don't care what neighborhood it's in, it's a problem. We have to address that problem head on. Like I said, I don't run from anything. I address it head on, that's what I'm used to. And that's how it's all about. The existing police chief, I'm not really sure who he is, but he has a job and obligation to make sure that all communities of this city are taken care of. It don't make a difference where it is. That's exactly what his job is, to make sure that whatever resources, after we meet, he has to tell me what that is. I can continue, but you said a short answer. So that's what I will do, make sure that those areas that's affected, every kid, every child, every citizen that own property, whether you rent it, lease it, or whatever, they deserve to live in peace. So how do you do that? Community policing, going out there, finding out what the problem is, and take it head on, and make sure that we're there, showing our presence and doing what we have to do to make sure that people are safe.
Thank you, young man.
Mr. Swanson, you currently serve on the board of directors for the Alabama County Managers Association. And I know that you have provided some professional development training to other professionals that are city managers and professionals alike. Can you tell us a little bit about what that professional development series is?
That's a good question, man. One thing about, and I can use different scenarios. One of them would be ACCMA. ACCMA goes around to Auburn University and makes sure that, Dr. Umar, make sure that training is being done statewide. I had the great opportunity to present at conferences, and that's, I can't even put a price tag on that. The last city, when I entered into the city, it don't take me long to really know what's going on. I mean, I can look at it, I can tell by employees' mannerisms, because I study mannerisms. I can tell what's going on with people. And what I determined was there was a lack of dreaming. If you have employees that don't see a future, or think that they have hit the ceiling and they can't go any further, I don't see smiles on their face, they don't want to come to work, you're not going to have a productive workforce. Something is going to happen, they're going to call in, it's going to be separation. So, to answer your question, Mayor, is that what I did was put together what a process called internally solo. That's internally stuck on leadership and management only. I want to make sure that those individuals have an opportunity to be all they can be. If they're all they can be, they're going to want to come to work. And we're going to look at all patterns of it, because guess what? They need to be able to represent this city. They should be able to stand in front of any crowd. They should be equipped to make sure that when they walk in the room, they shut it down. That's how I see it. When someone from Anniston walk into any room, I don't care what meeting in the state of Alabama, we shut it down. They know that the city of Anniston is there. They have arrived. And therefore, we are the model city. We set the standard. Nobody else will. We will.
Thank you. Another question by Councilmember Harris is, you were appointed by Governor Ivey to serve on the Alabama Fire College and Personnel Standards and Education Commission. How do you envision your role in this capacity is helpful to your potential position as city manager?
Because that goes back right back to being the model city. I know for a fact we have a training site here. And myself, my job is to support the fire chief. And not to do his work, not to do anything but support. Not only do I know that other agencies come to our city to train from all over the state, I want to make sure not only that, but what can the fire college do even more? I want to make sure that when I get with the fire chief, that our ISO rating, our insurance service office rating, is top notch. once I get that batch report back, give you all a copy of it, share the information with you all. A batch report, in other words, depending on our number, and being a 1 is the best you can be, 10 is the worst. Depending on our number, and that batch report will tell us exactly where we need to put tax money so that we can improve to try to be a number 1 fire department, class 1 fire department. That chief, when I get with him and doing that, my job is to do that. By me being on the commission, I can bring a lot more. I know Mr. Rooks really is already have an office at that training site, from what I understand. But that's his job. He's the regional training guy or specialist. So therefore, I want to work with them and make sure that they are equipped to have what they have, so that more people will come here and train. And we making sure our products are state of the art, and whoever our training chief is that's out there, or training captain, making sure that they have what they need, because we want, back to what you're saying, we want the people to come here and spend money. How do we do that? We got to ensure that we have enough to make sure that we do that. So that's gonna be a pet peeve, that's gonna be high on the priority list, that we already have something in place, but how do we make it even better?
Thank you. So something that I hear often, that I've also heard historically, is our fire code really sets us back, specifically in downtown Anniston. With your experience as a fire chief, as well as working at the Alabama Fire College, and just dealing in that public safety area, how do you think that your experience will help us navigate being more creative in addressing the fire code, specifically to ensure individuals have an opportunity to come and help downtown grow?
Well, I can answer that one way to make sure that, well, I know the inspection department that we have, and they have to be on point. They have to follow the codes. I'm sure that they're building codes and codes that have already been adopted or about to be adopted. The one thing about the playbook, you can't deviate from it. However, we must do what we're supposed to do to make sure that we get businesses down there, and we may have to sit as a team and say, what exactly can we do to assist? But for a deviation from the fire code, we'd be asking for trouble. However, that downtown area, we know exactly what we're looking for and how we're going to actually get them in there. But as far as us deviating and making sure that we follow those codes, we have to do that. But at the same time, what can we do as a community, as a team, to make sure that we can offer some type of incentive to assist, possibly, though, depending on how that works out, to make sure that what we're looking for, because sometimes, and I have to really research this a little bit more. For example, what I'm saying is, I hate to refer back to Talladega, but they have a historic district. Some of the businesses in the historic district, everything can't go down in the historic district. So we have to look at every single aspect of making sure that, how is it divided, and making sure that whatever is in there, what business actually belongs in our downtown, what can come, so we can support it even more. That's going to be so important, because I want our downtown to thrive. The more it thrives, the more money we make, the more we can do with tax money. And that's what we're looking for. So.
Thank you. I have one last question, and that comes from Councilmember Harris. She says, what do you envision as the greatest challenge facing Anniston from your perspective?
You know what? Until I get in the seat and find out, because I'm on the outside looking, and when you drive, you see all these amenities, and it looks amazing. Just like if you know, I hate to keep doing an analogy with football. Until you get in and actually see how the day-to-day work, then I can really provide an analysis and a report back to you all actually of what my findings are. But being a city manager in the past, I can assure you there's internal, always, there's something internal that's going on that needs to be solved. And when you solve the internal aspects of it, get everybody on that page of accepting and knowing the direction that they're going and holding them accountable. Just like you all hold me accountable, I hold the employees, the department is accountable, and they hold their subordinates accountable. That way we can move forward. Other than that, we can't move forward. I mean, things are happening. You're going to see progress, but are we stable? Are we that model city? when I say model city, I want people to come here to see how we do things for real. I want them to act for our policies. I want them to act for our procedures. I want them to come and shadow some of these department heads. I want them to come to my office and shadow to see how you really operate with integrity, how do you do things from a city management standpoint, so that succession planning is in its prime. And that's what I'll be putting in place, integrity, succession planning, to make sure that if something happens to anybody, that the job will continue to be functioning properly. So.
Thank you. I've asked each candidate, will ask the candidate prior to you, but I just want to let you know, if you are offered the job, we will conduct an extensive background check on you. Is there anything that you would like the council to know?
Background-wise?
Background-wise.
No. You can look, search. You have it. Everything I've done, I do it with integrity. I don't have anything to hide. That's why I came forth when I first came in here, to try to clear up anything. I know I'm a hot topic right now, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to hide anything. It would have been a whole other notion if I came in here and not even disclosed that to you all. I think you ought to look at me a little bit different. I hope you looked at me to say that I'm that person of integrity. Everything that I've done is with integrity. The people that know me statewide know I do things with integrity and accountability, and making sure that I put employees first, because that's what I do. I'm an employee functioning guy. So that's what I do, to make sure that they have what they're supposed to have, and we're using taxpayer dollars wisely.
Thank you. We are about to close. Do you have any questions for the council? And if not, you can go ahead and move forward with your closing statement.
Okay. Just one second.
Pick your top two, please.
All right, hold on. I was just trying to make sure. Oh, got a lot of paperwork over here. Now, if you don't mind, before I do my closing, I just have a few, and anybody can answer this. It's just one question was, you've been hearing me talk about model city, and that question is, what does model city mean to you? That right there, I would give me my framework of saying, because that means it's broad for me. But what does model being that term, model city? I'm not directing that. I was just asking that question.
Would any of you like to answer? Or
I can just one. I can tell you, I think we all know the literal sense of model city and why we're called model city. But that is long, outdated, and it's our past, our history, so we can own it. But I think there are far more relevant instances in which we strive to be the model city. And I think we can be the model city to model compassion.
Sure.
And how things can turn. We have an extraordinary opportunity, I'll say, with some assistance programs in our downtown area. And there will be opportunity for us to model compassion and understanding. And relevancy, in the 21st century. There will be some opportunities for that soon. And so I think that we can be the model city in demonstrating that American spirit. So that's kind of what it is to me now, among various other things. Sure. But that's, I don't speak for council, but that's just my personal kind of law.
So, like Mr. Downing, what Mr. Downing said is true. I think originally when the model city name came up, it was because of the way the city was designed, and it was structurally designed as a city, and the way the streets are laid out, the way things of that nature. So that, and plus we were also the first city in Alabama with electricity. So the term model city has deep roots, but since then, because of the negative moniker that we've had in Anniston, we made a commercial, and I don't know if you've seen it, and our commercial says, we are more. We're more than what you've heard. We're more than what you've and they play roots in the city, what you'll see is a city that's rich and ready to move. You'll see a city that has gone down the wrong way for whatever reason, maybe just outdated times, but now as we've turned the corner, I'm not saying we're there, but we're turning to the right direction. And I think these next few years are going to be very pivotal to the city of Anniston, letting everybody know we are more and we are still the undisputed model city. Thank you.
I pretty much share the same sentiments. Something that I think is unique about the city of Anniston is we are a diverse body of people, and our leadership reflects that. You currently have our current council, but we also have 2 incoming city councilors that are coming in, or they're actually in the room today, and we represent all parts of Anniston, all walks of life, all demographics, whether you're black, white, young, or old. And I think the importance of that, or what's so special about that, is we are on a new journey of what inclusivity really looks like and how we can bridge the gap that has been divided for so long, where the country club meets the west side, where the south side meets Norwood. I think that Anniston is truly embarking on a path that has never been done before, and I think we have the right leadership for it. And I think that's truly what the model city is, or at least should be.
Last question would be, what advice would you give me if I was chosen as the incoming city manager to build trust and succeed with this council and community?
Make sure you got that skin. Get you started.
Ms. Swanson, one thing that you said earlier, which I listened to, because you talked about downtown, there are a number of people who would like to live in law, but there are some codes that would not allow them to be able to do so because you have to have a sprinkler system, and the sprinkler system are expensive.
That's correct.
But one thing you said was that we will look at it and work and see what we can do in order to be able to accomplish it. Not violating any code,
Right.
but you're looking to see what you can do to be able to help people to do it. I don't believe that's there now, but that would be a good thing to do.
I would say just stand in truth, be who you are. One thing I have learned in being in office, specifically in the city of Anniston, is perception is reality for them. What they see is real, even if that's not the truth. And so, one thing my grandmother has always taught me is if you know you're doing the right thing, you're operating in integrity, doesn't matter what anyone else says. And I would ditto what Councilman Downing says, is you have to have really thick skin, and you don't have to respond to everything. There's this thing called executive maturity that I have been learning recently, and utilizing it quite often, especially the last 2 weeks. So that's just my little tidbit of professional advice, whether you're here or anywhere in the future. With that being said, if you will give us a quick, brief closing, and we will close it out.
Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come sit before you all. If you refer back to the resume, it's very hard to paint a picture with a resume, and even sitting before you all communicate, because I feel like anybody can sell themselves. However, proven track record, and the thing is, what is that fit that you all are looking for? That's what should be the thing. What is that fit? And I'm hoping that things I've said, I hope in track records, I hope that what I've said counts. I hope you heard what I've said. One thing that I can tell you is this: we will work diligently for grants to make sure that we can subsidize different things without spending our money, so to speak, from the operational side. And saying that, but we have to be ready. You heard me say that from the beginning. Are we ready? That means that we have to have a master plan, but if they're not already in place, and they may be, for sidewalks, pavement, ADA transition. We're talking about transportation, and we already said we have a comprehensive plan. We have a CIP for a 5-year CIP. All of that has to be evaluated and making sure that we're ready to move forward. I want to be that person sitting here to make sure I guide that. I want to be that person to make sure that this city moves forward. I think with everything I've been through as far as preparing myself, I know what my weaknesses were, and I want to make sure that if I'm addressing something for the mayor and council, I can deliver adequate information so that you all can make a sound decision. And when y'all make that decision, it's for me to enforce it. That's my job, is to make sure I do that. So I think I've equipped myself over the years from every standpoint to make sure I can get you the right information so that you all can make a good, sound decision for the community. So in saying that again, I appreciate the time, appreciate you listening to me. It was a great drive up. I was able to see some lakes that I love to fish. And boy, it was great coming up. I pray everything goes well. And I appreciate again that you allow me the time to come before you to tell my side of what went on in Talladega, but also to let you know how interested I am in the position of city manager here. In saying that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Before we bring Mr. Thornton in, we're going to take just a 1 minute break.
Hey, sir, you're right.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you.
Mr. Blue. So that means like an extended paragraph for each candidate, just not enough. Here's the thing about today, people don't read all the stories. They don't. The gist, the character of each candidate. Yeah.
I like the idea of square we just put the spaces.
That's exactly what I'm looking at.
That's good. I would like to see that.
Like that, like here you see, right there on that.
Like to see y'all should see. This is why. Is that in town?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's at work, it's always, we are supposed to question everybody. Yeah. Yeah. And so, we definitely need to take all of our content, put it on all these different platforms, simultaneously.
You have about 30. It's not right now. 30 what? About 30. 30. Where they? Oh, nothing. so far outside of the guy, wasn't who has been saying this. Just said what he said.
There was one thing, Sierra. Can you get Joe to
speak in the mic.
microphone?
I will.
I can't hardly hear myself.
I will.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, I'll get one of that. Yeah, no, I think
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at the Dominican. They're gone. There's no more print.
All right, if we can get everyone to come back in, we are about to get started. And as soon as everyone has sat down, Mr. Thornton can come in. I would like to thank the public for being patient with us. I know that we are about an hour, almost 2 hours in, but again, this position is extremely important, so we want to make sure we have as much dialogue as possible. Good evening, Mr. Thornton. How are you?
Good, how y'all doing?
I am good.
You notice I had to say y'all instead of guys in Michigan. It's, hi guys.
It's all good. You talk how you talk. That's fine. So what we are going to do, just to give you a little rundown, after we introduce ourselves, we will allow you the opportunity to kind of talk about yourself and your background, and each city councilor will have the opportunity to ask you some questions. We do have a city councilor named Councilmember Harris who is not with us on today. She had surgery on yesterday, but she did send me some questions specifically for each candidate. So when it's time for my question portion, I will also ask some of her questions as well. With that being said, we'll move forward with introductions with Councilmember Downey.
Good evening, Mr. Thornton. We met yesterday by chance in downtown Anniston, so I introduced myself to you. But I'm Louis Downey, I represent Ward 1, which is kind of east, far east, and then far northeast Anniston.
Good evening, Mr. Thornton. My name is Dimitri D. Roberts. I currently represent Ward 2. Nice.
Mr. Thornton, my name is Joe Harrington, I represent Ward 3.
Well, thank you all for your service. And is the council member, do you know if she's watching virtually?
She is watching virtually. And my name is Sierra Smith. I'm the mayor of Anniston. If you would like to move forward with just give a little bit of background of who you are and some professional experience that you've had.
Can I ask a question first?
Absolutely.
Is Ms. Moss and Ms. Tolson present?
Yes, they are in the audience.
Oh, okay.
We will ask them to wave if you would like to turn around so you know who they are.
Well, wonderful. Will they have the opportunity to ask any questions?
Currently,
They know, but
They can definitely reach out to you, Mr. Swanson, if they have any questions.
awesome.
all right, go ahead.
All right. Hey, Jeff Thornton. In the beginning, my mother was born in Etowah County. I do have family in the area and in Anniston, West Side. And I have been visiting the area so many times, and because every time I come, grandparents got to take me to Mount Cheetah and stuff like that. So I'm somewhat familiar with the area. I'm more familiar with the Gadsden area. But in my career, I started out as born in Flint, Michigan, lived in Flint, Michigan. And later, my family moved, and I really got into civil service. And I got into Boy Scouts, Junior Achievement, 4-H, all those organizations, which led me into volunteering for an ambulance service. And later, when I was in college, I became the director of the ambulance service. And that was a wonderful experience. I was a licensed EMT. And we operated with 3 ambulances and served a multi-jurisdictional area. And then went to school, and I got yanked out of school because the Kmart Corporation dangled money. And when you're a young guy and you're looking at somebody presents you an opportunity, you jump at it like that. And I did that for a number of years. And I think that's what led to my success in my public service career, learning the business. The business, you need to run government like a business. Deal with what money you have and spend it wisely. So after Kmart, when I saw the light at the end of the tunnel was dimming, if we all know what I mean by that, I got into working with myself. I bought into a printing and publishing company for a few years, had good success there, and ended up selling it off. And I went into, I was a 911 telecommunicator for a short time. That is a tough job, and I only lasted about 90 days because I was used to helping people with my hands and ditches and doing CPR and stuff like that. And you can't really do that over the phone when somebody's crying because they're holding a dying loved one in their arms. So it's very emotional. So I went on and I started managing airports. And then I went from airports to an airport in northern Michigan. It's a joint use. It's a civilian and military shared airport with their carrier. And I got that job, and we had some economic development that needed to happen around there because Michigan has a renaissance. So there's incentives for people to go in and buy property for the nothing. So we were really doing some economic development, and I got shoved into the county administrator position. Oh, I got to play then. Wonderful experience, wonderful people to work with. There, most everybody's elected, the sheriff's elected and all that. Speaking of sheriffs, he and I are mutually acquainted on Facebook, didn't know. I put a message out, anybody live in Anniston? He called me up and he said, oh, we're talking about trains. Now, the next thing I know, he's like, yeah, I happen to be the sheriff here. So that was pretty interesting. I got to play in Alpena. I was the administrator, but I was also a special deputy. The sheriff had me heading up his dive team, and I did other duties for him. But it was wonderful. Got me really into law enforcement there and learning that. And then we had parks and recreation, and very much what your county has, and you were very familiar with. Then I went on to the Upper Peninsula. In the Upper Peninsula, I learned a lot about recreation, and ironically, years ago, we were at where you're at right now with your mountain biking. And ironically, I stopped into Whitley Bike Shop today, and he happens to know you pretty well, he said. And so we're talking about how that is being looked at and the problems they're experiencing and trying to develop, turn that into an economic developer. You can do it. I've been there, so you can try anything. You can't be successful at it. So then I'm going into more because these folks haven't seen my resume. And I see you've got some very interested parties here. So I'm probably going into things that you folks already know about.
You can go as extensive as you need to go.
And I'm sorry for my fast talking again. I'm from the in Nagani, it's all recreation and tourism mostly. The Upper Peninsula is known as the vacation destination. Main industry are there's only three: lumber, iron ore mining, and working for government. Either capacity of government, a municipality, or school, or a hospital. And let me go back. In Alpena County, we not only own the airport, but we also own the hospital. So that's very educational, also. But in Nagani, we learned about how to make money off recreation. A big thing I learned about was again economic development. One of the mines closed where there were 400 miners out of work. And if you know anybody from the UP, they call themselves Upers and they're proud of it. And so we had to figure out how to deal with these people. A lot of them unskilled because they were laborers that just knew how to drive a Caterpillar or something like that. So we found jobs and retrained them. I got an award from the governor for hitting the panic button and let's get started. I just got to know some mines closing. We got to do something now. And I also got an award from a different governor in Alpena. I say I, the side accepted it. It was on behalf of the team. Now I don't do this stuff on my own. It takes a team to do this. So in Alpena, we kind of worked because back it, we brought, mouse? We brought high-speed internet, the county did, to the county, and that really helped out. We did a consortium, and we provided high-speed internet on our fiber lines with the hospital, the college, and the city. And we shared it. We do these partnerships working together. But in back to Nagani, it's hard to share things there because it's similar to Oxford and Anniston. You share a city limit. You have these struggles back and forth, and sometimes people don't get along. When businesses move from one jurisdiction to the other, people are accused of stealing them or something like that. But people make those decisions for different things, and you just got to move on. If somebody moves out of town, how to replace them and stuff like that. But it's tough, and I understand that there is a little bit, and it's a good thing they don't play each other in sports. When I was in the UP, we shared with Nagani and Ishmael, and people talked about the football game back in the 1970s and stuff like that. Those rivalries. But, Anniston's got some awesome things, and I just think there's good things going on. I'm sorry. I'm excited.
No, it's okay.
I'm excited about this.
You can be excited.
Because it's a great opportunity. So then in Caledonia, I got to Caledonia.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you will put the mic up closer to yourself, because we're also recording for those who cannot make it tonight, just so they can hear you.
Okay. So after Nagani, my daughter was getting older, and I had family members that were having issues. I lost both my parents within 6 months of each other, and it was very trying. So I took a little bit of a break there and went to work in Caledonia, and that's outside of Grand Rapids. I'm sure you've heard of Grand Rapids. That's where the riots started after the Floyd incident, and we've had some shootings that made national news. It's been very tough there, but it's all there. So in Caledonia, I went into a community, and we did some economic development of our own. We bought a permanent building to move the village hall to, and rented out a portion of the village hall, and I met with developers, and we built the village out. There's more room to build anything within the village, and that's wonderful. So the only thing to be done is redevelopment, and people are doing that on their own. And a lot of the development going on is like I see apartments going in at the top of F Street, and housing apartments, stuff like that. But that's what they need, is there's a housing shortage, and it can be addressed. But Nagani, I left Nagani because I got approached by Alpina. They were looking for another county administrator. They eliminated the position for a while, and then I left because of funding cutbacks. They eliminated the position. And they contacted me about filling the position again. So my current employer, Nagani, got nervous. What are we going to do? When are you going to leave? And you're shopping. So I left Caledonia on very good terms. I've been doing things on my own since then. So that's it. Well, let me tell you some things that you can't ask me. How's that? I am married. I have a wife, first and only, over 25 years. And I have a daughter, a 16-year-old daughter. And so we're really excited about this opportunity. And I feel privileged to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. We will go ahead and get in the question portion, starting with Councilmember Dowling.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Thornton, for being here again, for coming all this way. Thank you very much for doing that. So you led the way for a lot of questions. So we'll just start with one kind of at the forefront of the city. You had noticed all our recreational opportunities, and you related your own experience tying that to economic development yourself in the past. How do you see tying economic development to recreation, the importance of that, and maybe expand on how far you
with all I learned today about recreation and what's going on with the bike trails, I keep saying it, the Daiga Trail, I keep saying it, sorry.
What happened? Well, probably people say it differently all the time. So
I'm sorry about that. There's some great things going on, and I've seen some criticism of the trails and a little bit of bantering because of horses versus bikes. Been there. We had cross-country skiing, which is nice because it's a nice track, but we also had ski joining. That's where somebody attaches a dog to the front of them, and they have dogs. Instead of sled dogs like normal sled dog race, they pull a skier. Well, the dogs are just like the track. So we have battles there, use of a similar trail. So you laugh. It's important to some people, I tell you. You know how it is. So it's just, but the thing is, with the economic development, people don't want to travel so much. Oh my gosh, I'm spending so much time in Anniston because they've got awesome recreation. They've got a beautiful museum. I love it there. And so a lot of people, and if you look at people on the trail there, a lot of them are entrepreneurs or they work from home. And because if you go out there on the trail today, there's all kinds of people on it, and you go, what do they do for a job? Well, those people, if you do enough recreation, people will move there. There's proof of that in Michigan, Traverse City. Traverse City got into recreation and investing in recreation, and it's a boom town up around Traverse City's won many national awards for the tourism up there with all the stuff we do. But yeah, it can bring money, and I've seen it. It's possible. Doesn't, what we did up in Nagani may not work here, what they did in Traverse City may not work here. But people need to have the opportunity to try. And that's, as long as you got people trying, somebody will be successful.
I guess what I've done was if you could relate your personal experience with working in crossroads of economic development and recreation. Maybe your organization were able to progress that.
Okay, in Alpena County, we had a problem. Our sheriff's department was always called to our campgrounds, 3 different campgrounds. And we were running into problems, and visitors were down. Visits were decreasing because of problems, and it was troubles at the campgrounds. So finally, we got the team together, the sheriff's department, and each of the campground managers and the commissioners, and found out what is going on here. So we started marketing the 3 campgrounds differently. One was marketed as the play campground. Come play with videos of jet skis and playing volleyball and parties around a campfire. At one park, at another park, we showed grandparents walking, holding hands, walking a dog, and sitting quietly around a campground. And another one we featured as more family-oriented, with kids and videos and stuff like that, because we had conflicts at each of these campgrounds. You're too loud, we're trying to sleep, we got kids, they have to get to bed. And then we did that, we just in marketing and getting the word out and troubleshooting, revenues went up, the campgrounds were booked, and we had waiting lists. In Nagani, we developed the trails, well that brought businesses, because these businesses were serving the people walking on trails. They were small, coffee shops, sandwich shop, bars, but we also did wayfinding where we directed people from the trails into town. 2 blocks this way is another restaurant, bar, grill, that type of thing. And the business were buying and moving into town. So that's an experience with economic development there. But another thing is in Caledonia, the economic development we brought was housing. Because that brought more business to the local grocery stores, service facilities, restaurants. So just taking care of housing problems can improve economic development. But with that, you have to have something to attract them. Recreation is a big thing. Dog parks, and dog parks are a big thing. People love their pets. I walked out to a lady today that was out walking a dog on the front lawn, and come to find out she's dear friends with the council person that's absent tonight. And but dogs, I love dogs, so I just walk them. We foster dogs, so have fostered dogs. There's a lot of other things you do, like our YMCA, a bank closed up, and we're like, we don't want an empty bank building. what can we put in there to keep it going? So we thought, recreation and athleticism. So we got the Y to put in a satellite facility right in our town when the main facility was in Marquette. Does that help?
It does, thank you very much.
I can go on, there's so much. I love it though, I like being busy, I love being busy.
Mr. Thornton, thank you for your interest in the position, and I certainly wasn't laughing at, I was laughing with your statement. It was like the dog tearing up the pond. I was just like, wow, really?
Well, I'm glad to hear laughter. I've
Yeah.
been out in the lobby and I'm like, wow, what's going on there? I don't hear, laughing, chuckling. You gotta make light of this because it's a tough job.
It is, and that's why I've asked the same question. Why Anniston? Why the city manager position in Anniston? Why now and why you?
Well, it's an old saying and I'm just gonna throw it out there. My heart's in Alabama. Prove it. My papa gave me his license plate for this car that used to say, my heart's in Alabama. So it is. My family's from here. They spend so much time here. I was in the UP, and it's pretty desolate up there. But I have climbed the mountains along Collinsville, the Cherokee. Now I guess it's the Cherokee something, or they even have a helipad for rock climbers that fall or something like that. But it's the recreational opportunities that I used to enjoy while seeing family, and it's the friendliness. And I come back here, I try getting up north, people just don't get a response. It's a simple, everybody that I met today, we spoke, and it's just so friendly. And the thing is, I looked at the position last winter, and I saw the posting again, and the only reason I applied was that lady right there. Her enthusiasm, and that I've seen on social media, and using social media as a tool. And I understand the last few years the council has become very active and progressive, and you're very well liked. And you've got good things going here, and it would be lovely to keep it going and end my career here. Because we live in the UP of Michigan, and we got tired of making national news because the Weather Channel would show us. We always forecasted to get the first snowfall because of our position on Lake Superior. And we got snow. And but why Anniston? I took my daughter to the Grand Rapids area, which had culture, and that was wonderful. She experienced concerts and stuff like that a kid in UP just wouldn't have the opportunity to do. Look at the position here. Halfway between everything. Halfway between Birmingham and Atlanta. You got Gadsden up the road. You got awesome things happening down around Mount Cheehaw, and it's wonderful, and it should keep going. I've been through this town 25 years ago. When I drove down Main Street, it was empty. I see construction going on. I interviewed you folks today. I drove around and I talked to a lot of people. I spoke to a lot of your employees. I spoke to your fire chief, I think, last Friday. I spoke to, I thought I was just going to speak to the police chief, but he brought in all four of his captains because he said one of them's going to be sitting in this chair. But, things you read on the internet aren't always true. So I went right to the source. That's what I do. When I hear things, I fact check things. And I tell you, Anniston is a wonderful place, and with my experiences, I think I can add something, hopefully.
Appreciate that. 10 years a little bit. Tell us about the time you made a difficult decision, and that was unpopular but necessary, and how did you handle the feedback or pushback?
In Nagani, the only time we ever had millages, do you get millages here? Okay, special tax millage. So anyway, they did a special tax for, they always do them for schools. Schools just can't be funded with what the state divvies out. So the community wanted better schools, high vote of the community, they would give extra money to the school for different things. You know, they needed a new pool or a new football stadium or something like that. And they had never had a special tax for anything else. And I said, well, we need to do a special tax for equipment. In Negaunee, the oldest snowplow still operating was older than I was. And they needed new equipment, new facilities, new capital assets. And they didn't, you know, money's tough. So we did a request for a millage, you know, all right, everybody came over, not another tax. You know how it is, not another tax. Well, the voters voted it in. The thing is, what I did was I promoted it. It was a special millage for capital assets, and I told them what it was going for. And I'll be darned, we went for that. People were happy. And when it expired, they renewed it. And they kept going, because what I did was I put the equipment we had out on the front lawn of our meeting hall. And I let people come and see it. This is what our police are driving. It's a 40-year-old police car. It's, you know, the fire truck is old. Here's the ages on it. We put the age on all of them and show mileage on all of them. And to show the people, we're not trying to pull a fast one here. We really need this. There is a need for it. It passed resoundingly. The talk, the chatter was negative. Another tax, it passed resoundingly. We did with the money what they wanted, and they renewed it and said, let's do it again. Ironically, the fire department, yeah, the fire chief's here. Plug your ears, fire chief. So, fire departments like big, new, shiny, loud things. They like the latest and greatest. Our fire department said, you know, we don't need a new fire truck. We just need a new chassis for the one we have. I'm like, what? We're only talking $300,000 versus $600,000. And that's what the firemen decided. And, you know, let them decide. They are the ones going to work with it. And I tell you what, that scored so many points in the community because we were being honest in what we were spending the money on. And that's communication. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I found the answer. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Thornton, thank you very much. You're right, Anniston is a special place. I came here 52 years ago. I was in Anniston as a young soldier. And I stayed here because of the area and the love of the people. Kind of give me a perspective of your situations dealing with small business, your experience with small business.
Well, I worked in big business, big box stores, Kmart Corporation, for a number of years. Had that experience, and then I was a small business. You know what? You've got to do what you can for people who are trying. These people are entrepreneurs, and if you talk to entrepreneurs and read things about entrepreneurs, about only 10% of what they do is successful, and that's a win. They feel very good. Because there's a lot of failures. They got to try. But my job, your job, is to help these people. Help the community. You're here to serve them. And if a small business is looking to come into the community, do what you can. Number one, get out of their way. You know, because so many people want to, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, let them do what they're going to do. Just make sure they pull the proper permits, they're meeting inspections, and let them go for it. And that's the biggest thing. You know, people have opinions on what color you're going to paint the entry and stuff like that. Let them do it. Because if it's not successful, if they feel like they're failing, what can we do to help you? What can you change? Is it your parking situation? You know, we might be able to help with parking spaces. We might be able to help you with the loading zone. You know, is it facade grants? I've been involved in Negaunee. We gave out facade grants for fronts of buildings to remodel them and make them look good. And turn it in from remodeling to rehabilitate because all historic structures are up here.
You got to ask my second question as it relates to assisting people because, you know, there's small businesses thrive the larger businesses. So I just want to get your perspective on that. And not only that, but when they need assistance, we have to be there for to assist them in doing so.
You do what you can, but you can only do so much because other people are going to look and see what you do for them and say, why didn't you do it for us? Why aren't you doing this? So you gotta be careful here. And that's where I say the biggest thing we can assist them is guide them to ordinances, guide them to building codes, guide them, so help them and stay out of the way. Let them, if they want to, put a parking lot and do the parking lines a certain way, and you're like, well, that's going to affect entry onto the road or something like that, then you can say, hey, is there something you can do? Because we think with your traffic flow, it's going to affect that intersection or something like that. But you do what you can, and if you can do things financially, legally, but you got to be consistent. And that's the thing, consistency in government is pretty tough. Like I said, some businesses, you do something for one coffee shop, sometimes there's some animosity. All right.
Thank you, young man.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to reiterate, thank you, Mr. Thornton, for coming down here. I am going to go in between some questions between Councilmember Harris and I. One of the questions, really a statement and then into a question. Our airport has much potential in several areas. How would your previous role as regional airport manager near Dearborn, Michigan, be advantageous to the development of our regional airport reaching its full potential?
Hold it. Can you go back to Dearborn, Michigan? I'm trying to figure out how that was.
She wrote Dearborn, Michigan. May have been a misquote.
Dearborn doesn't, the airport there is private, owned by the Ford Corporation, and it's right across from Greenfield Village.
I think she meant to put Alpena Regional Airport Manager.
I'm sure Mr. Thornton told you that.
Well, for one thing, we were joint use in Alpena, and still are. It is inactive. They do training there. The runway is nowhere, it's too big for a normal general aviation airport. Some heavy stuff lands there, C-5s, Galaxies, stuff like that, many times. And it's used by active Air Force and active military, all branches. I had great experience working with the military. I had a very good experience with the FBO, fixed base operator. Anniston Aviation is the FBO currently. And you have to have a good relationship with them because they are the chamber ambassadors for your community at the airport. And if you take a look at what's landing at your airport, you've got some big players landing at your airport. Not commercially, they're flying in privately. And that's an impression on the community. And economic development there is possible, and it happens around. I know Alpena got some drone operators involved, or manufacturers involved. So there are a great many opportunities. Aviation is greatly changing right now with the advent of the drones. And so working in, being the military activity going on out there, it's a more secure facility than a lot of general aviation airports. But there's a lot of things that can be done out there. I've heard people talking about the terminal and economic development in the airport, but a lot of it around it is important too, associated with the airport. Because there's if you go to Oscoda, Michigan, that's where William Smith Air Force Base used to be. It was part of the closures with here, but they brought in a cargo hauler that is the main tenant, but all of his engine rebuilding subcontractors moved in too. And they had a lot of employees. They had a serious housing shortage because they didn't have enough room for all these, because they tore down a lot of the housing after the Air Force Base closed. And there's a lot of aviation associated things going on. So I do have experience there.
Thank you.
Ms. Mayor, from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Thornton, I wonder if, just out of curiosity, if you have any experience working with airport authorities?
Yes, and I was a licensed airport manager. So yes, airport authorities are very good to work with. They're normally appointed by the governing bodies that own the airport, and because their interest is aviation, where yours may not be. But and you figure out who's important to be on that authority. You folks, it can be people. I mean, I would put people from Oxford on that authority, but ultimately, you folks have the final say. It's what authority you would give the authority. I didn't think Anniston was an authority.
We're not.
Oh.
I will do need an airport authority. And I do think that Oxford should have a seat at the table, as well as JSU. They just implemented an aviation program, a major. I think there's a lot of opportunity with building up that regional airport, and I think Oxford should have a seat at the table. So if you were selected, I think that's definitely something that we would be discussing.
Well, and that's one thing,
That's the reason I asked for it, because there are so many stakeholders that are affected by our airport and involved with our airport, that it really makes sense. We believe that it makes sense to operate under an authority, and so I just have a little curious if you have various under authorities.
yes.
All right. Another question is, can you tell us a little bit about your educational background?
Crazy. I'm learning every day. I learn something every day. I don't watch a lot of TV comedy stuff. I watch, the Learning Channel and National Geographic, and I do a lot of reading online and good things people put out on YouTube. There is some good stuff on YouTube, but helps me fix my car many times. But my education, I graduated high school. I attended Lansing Community College. I attended Michigan State University. I attended many schools, but I do not have a degree. Like I said, I was pursuing that path, and then somebody, big business thing with big dollars, and I left. People talk to me about going back and adding everything up and seeing if I could get a degree. But many people, my experience and my successes do fine. We're talking about what you learned 25 years ago is not very applicable now. So as long as I've been, I've been keeping up with the changes, and I'm very involved with associations, professional associations. I'm a member of the AAME, and that's a national organization, and then I'm very involved with the state of Michigan. I actually sat on the, without a degree, I sat on the municipal leagues board in Michigan. Because my successes and work has been recognized. And I'm sorry, I was actually involved with the master's program at Northern Michigan University, and I didn't have a master's, but I was involved and had an intern for the program, so I was teaching people in the master's program. But I have taught, I've actually gone on and taught a lot about EMS, and I've been public speaking for a long time, so. Like I said, I learn every day, and I learn from the questions.
Absolutely. I have one last question from Councilmember Harris. How were you successful in achieving a debt-free, is it Nagani?
No, that was Caledonia.
Caledonia.
I call myself frugal, my wife calls me cheap. Yeah. Yep. So I am. And it carries on. And Dave Ramsey has a lot of good things that he says and things to learn by, and you can apply them commercially. And I run things like a business. So in Caledonia, it's like at budget time, I look at things as the wishes, the wants, the needs, the gotta haves, and you prioritize, and that comes from my EMS background. You got to prioritize and triage the needs and have people justify these things. And we just save, and we started investing in different places. And in Caledonia, the treasurer and the clerk are not elected. And honestly, it's hard to find people working in government, and the turnover is so high that a treasurer, when I went in to Caledonia, she was previously just a bank teller. I knew more about government financing than she did. And I wear many hats. But save money, and then look at, do you buy or do you lease? Lease rates are so cheap. You do a patrol cars. Ford has some awesome programs on government purchasing. You can do a 5-year lease with $1 buyout at the end. It's yours. In Michigan, you cannot borrow money. So it's a legal way of getting a 5-year loan from the manufacturer and not do that. We can only buy save money, and right after I left, the wish list got filled. And the money, I don't know if they're debt free now, because they bought a lot of things, but at least I left them in a good position.
How did you, Mr. Thornton, how did you handle that relationship, going into that role, with a financial director or treasurer that?
She just signed things. She just signed things. And, we looked for a more qualified person, because it was putting more work on me. But, I was calling around getting rates on CDs and things like that, and where to make more money on our money. And that's pretty easy. You do that on your own. You can get it on the phone, so it wasn't that hard. But, she was there. She and I signed the checks and the official documents, and the auditors had no problems with that. And just so you know, I never had a problem with an audit that I did. In Michigan, they note the deficiencies. If you went out of budget, and you have to do an explanation, give a course of how you're going to correct that action. And I never had to do it in any of my governmental agencies that I worked in. So I keep a pretty good eye on the financial in any position I have. And it's tough because in Alpena County, the official is elected. And I'm going to tell you, an election, anybody can be elected. It's usually the most personable person. But the treasurers don't always have the skills that rely on the team there. But as long as they're there to lead the team and help the team and make sure the team's doing everything correctly. I know a county clerk that spent very little time in her office, but it was her subordinates that were well trained and disciplined and did an awesome job.
Thank you. Counselors, do you have any follow-up questions? All right, I've asked each candidate, if offered the job, we will have to conduct an extensive background check. Is there anything that you would like the council to be aware of?
I've been arrested. I think I got one speeding ticket over 25 years ago. If you Google me, there's things that, there's two sides to every story. Some people understand and some people don't follow it. If you Google me in Nagani, my departure from Nagani is questioned. So what happened was there was a problem I had with unethical people. In Nagani, the council directed me as their employee to do certain things, and some people didn't like it. One of them was a building that was half collapsed, and the owner of the building felt it could be rebuilt, but he did not have any means to do it. And it sat there on the main street in this state for years. And economic development, people drive around, see that, it was right next to a park with ski trails and everything else. And the council said, we've had enough, Jeff, do something. So I sent the letters, can you do something, and he gave us some time to do something on his own. And I tried to help him. I directed him to state economic development groups, investors, everything. And I do what I can do. All I do is refer people to it. And the council said, tear it down, do what you do. It should have been torn down years ago. So we followed our ordinances and laws. We followed them fine. This is what the law says. It should have been torn down 5 years ago. But they gave me the back, because the council needed to really back me on that type of thing, and they did. So we did the demolition, and in that town, in Michigan, you put the cost onto the property owner. You put it on taxes. But also, so they always have that tax bill, but also in the county, you can put it on taxes on other properties they own. So that's what we did. Well, that gentleman was upset, and he was a nice guy, and he got elected to council. Along with the gentleman that was in default of the cable system. In the county, they own their own cable TV system. And this gentleman was upset because we were asking for the money for the system. He'd already received it, signed a contract, and didn't pay for it. So the council said, go after him, Jeff. So they really took a stern thing a stern stance, which you have to do sometimes. So, ironically, those two people got elected to council. Very small community, 7 council members, and yeah, so they got elected, which is not surprising. But they own businesses and saw a lot of people, and I actually got threats from one of the council people. So when you read my history of Nagani, it leaves a big question mark. And it was a mixed vote when I left, because I did they gave me a severance package. And some of the council people didn't want to see me go. They wanted me to stay, and it was going to be tough. Well, the rest of the story is if you Google the 2 council people, since then, they were both taken to court by the city and lost. The one gentleman fled the state for that tax debt to go away. So that was part of it, and the other part was my family's health issues. And so it's just a culmination. So if you go to Nagani, it's just that. I'll pass the background check. I passed several in the past couple of months.
Well, thank you. Do you have any questions for council before you give a closing statement?
Sure, I do. I'm sorry, I'm sort of a lighthearted person. Earlier when my predecessor was sitting here, it sounded like laughter, because we gotta have fun when we do. Okay. Collectively, and sorry, we have a council member missing. On my to-do list, what are the top 3 things? What I know economic development's a big thing. That's going all the time. I feel the relationships with the employees, they're all happy. Some aren't so happy because they're no longer civil service. Some aren't happy. They got bumps in pays, but maybe not what they thought it was. But most everybody is a happy employee. Are there any problems internally? Department heads don't get along. None of that. It's the internal environment is great. It's the external. And I think it's the relationships with the community partners and keeping that going. So if I got the job on my to-do list, Jeff, these are the top 3 things we want you to do to work on. What would they be?
Well, I would say number 1 for me would actually be kind of the opposite of what you just said regarding the internal issues that I see. So as the mayor of the city of Anniston, we have a unique form of government where it's a council manager act. However, the mayor has additional executive duties outside of the council. And I know people love to say it's a part-time position, but majority of my time is spent at City Hall and in meetings and conducting meetings, a part of board, all the things. And so prior to that, I also was a city employee, ages 16 through 18, and so I have developed a lot of relationships with some of the individuals that work within the city. And by the way, I don't expect you to know the internal things. You wouldn't know that unless you were the city manager. And so for me, what I would love to see is a strong city manager really address some of the internal struggles that I see from my perspective as the mayor. And I believe that we are truly only successful as the team around us. And we can implement policy all day, every day. At the end of the day, our employees are the foot soldiers, and we have to have a strong relationship with them, just as we have to have a strong relationship with you. But I do see some areas of improvement externally as well. But that is something that I've been observant, I've paid a lot of attention to. And one thing that I want our employees to know is they have leadership that supports them, but there also has to be a level of accountability. And so that's something that I do look forward to the city manager really stepping in and addressing some of those internal issues that I see. Outside of that, we do have a great team. We have qualified employees who deserve every bit of pay that they do get. We have people who take the time out of their day, outside of their schedules, to do for this city, and sometimes more than we do. And so I do appreciate them absolutely for that. I can name them by name if I won't today. But there's always two sides to a coin. And there's always improvement that needs to be, made, and I can say that from a leadership perspective as well. So that would be probably number one for me. Obviously, there are many other things. Another thing that comes to the top of my head is the school system. We have got to have a better working relationship. I'm actually confident that we will moving forward. And the city manager will play a key part in that, in working with the superintendent and ensuring that communications are constant and proper. And that is something I look extremely forward to. I'm an Anniston High School graduate, grew up in Anniston City Schools. I spent 4 out of 13 of those years in Oxford City Schools. And that's what has made me civically engaged, just a difference in education I received in both school systems. And so it is extremely important to me that we pay attention to the progress of our school system, because that's directly tied to how we grow as a city. So that would be definitely number 2 for me. Number 3, there is this regionalism approach, that's just this movement that's going on in this area, and we have great stakeholders all over Calhoun County and just the region as a whole. I would love to continue to build those partnerships. I know you had made a comment that it's good that we don't play Oxford in sports, but I encourage that. I think that, historically what has been said and what has been done had nothing to do with Oxford nor Anniston. And I think it's an opportunity to show that we have grown. Councilmember Roberts mentioned it earlier, we are so much more than our past and what has been said about us, and we're on a new path. And I think that even playing each other in sports is a great way to show that we're in this together, and our economies rely on one another. So definitely that building the partnerships, building the relationships, addressing some of those internal issues, and working better with the school system.
I won't get 3, but I think one of the things that I would like to see our city manager do, whomever they may be, would be to understand there's still a need to try to unify the community, meaning there are still some underlying fires that are burning, and until you get out and understand each and every corner of Anniston, you will understand what the tensions are. And for the record, when it comes to playing Oxford in sports, they're scared. You can put it on record, I said it. They've been running ever since they decided to quit playing the game. But
Not literally, though, okay? We're trying to play them.
They're still running.
I brought it up just to like.
Yeah, they're running. They're scared of us. They're scared of the big dog. But seriously, it's an understanding that everyone in Anniston have a different walk of life, and it's a different perspective. As Mayor Smith said, there's 2 sides to every coin. And one of the ways I try to tell people is know your truth, but understand your truth may not necessarily be the person next to you's truth. But be respectful of that and understanding that, hey, they may have a different walk in life, and until we can get our whole city to unite, we speak of the school system, but when Mayor Smith mentioned it, we can get the country club to meet at Carver Center, and we can get Norwood to meet in South Island, or we'll say Blue Mountain to meet at South Island, then we'll be able to unite as one and become more, as our moniker say now, we are more. We are the model city, but until we continue, we need someone who's going to be strong in leadership, but also understand that where you're leading from and who you're leading.
Absolutely. That's why I spoke to some people previously to find out who the team players are. And it's important because the fire chief and the police chief are very highly respected. And I'm a little surprised you didn't bring up that they're short timers now. And the police chief introduced me to 4 possibilities and for his replacement. And fire chief is working on his replacement. But it's changed, and when you have change, sometimes things don't go so good because some people don't like change.
I hope our fire chief stays a little bit longer because he was just hired. Chief Phelps, he's not here, but I guess he can tell us something, but that's okay.
Oh, I think he's got a year left or something like that, he said.
I hope he has longer than a year left. I hope so. He's a great chief. We have time for one more question. I know you said you had a few. If you don't have any, that's fine. You can give us a closing statement.
Okay. My answer is different. Yes. Because the only reason I'm sitting in this seat here is because what my constituents says they want to see happen.
Okay.
First of all, organization.
Of what?
Organization within the city itself. If you don't have organization, you don't have anything. The next thing is our streets. The streets have to be better. They are in deplorable condition. And the third thing is that this city's not dirty. It's filthy. It needs to be cleaned up. What we have now is that it is bad everywhere. So that's my perspective of what the city manager needs to be on their job about getting those things taken care of.
You know, and you share some similar things as the county. I told you I met the chair at the Waffle House, but we were talking a little bit, and some initiatives the county are doing. They're doing the cleanup on. They've got special people assigned to go around and pick up trash. And, you know, it's part of that, but it's also community engagement. I go around and pick up trash a lot. You know, if I see something, it's just teaching habits. You know, why can't we teach kids to pick up the trash? We teach them in school. We call them
Starts early.
Yep, it starts early.
And I say that partly because I'm a need for everything has its place. It has to be in place. So I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I believe in my filing system is a stacking system, but it works for me. My desk would be piled. I call it the piling system instead of filing system. You know, and I had the commissioner come in and he says, you know, sign of a messy desk is a sign of a messy mind. I said, so an empty desk would be what? Yeah, it's, you know, you got some great things, and I know where you're coming from. I drive around. I'm not afraid to go anywhere. And I tell you, I went down some alleys and stuff last night, and I understand what you mean. But it's up to you folks to empower people, because when the teen starts enforcing, people start screaming, hey, they're threatening to give me a ticket. Well, they threatened to take care of the trash before you get a ticket. But we need the backing, our employees need the backing and trust of you folks. Because you know where they're going to run to. They're run to you folks. You complain. And, you know, but you folks need to be unified and say, hey, you know, that's the thing. You know, people say, oh, Jeff, you know, what's the number one thing? Blight. Which blight? Is it trash? Is it abandoned cars? Is it abandoned homes? You know, because you really got to target it. Because if you look around here, you know, there's a lot of vehicles. In Michigan, you have to have it licensed, it has to be insured, and it has to be drivable. If it's sitting in the yard with 4 inflated tires with a current license plate, you're fine. Well, people learn to back them in, and you can't see them from the street. But, you know, the tires are a giveaway. And you start dealing with those things. And you start assessing the bills to those people. But, you know, trash is another thing. It's a nuisance. And you get, but the thing is, you go out and educate these people and give them a chance. Is there a problem? Like, there's so many nice old people out there that they just don't have the ability. So you contact an organization, Rotary, Kiwanis, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts. Can anybody go over and help? You know, we'll have a dump truck out front. You know, can you folks help this nice person and load it up? And make it a community project. Make it a community party. You know, bring down some dumpsters, some gondolas, and leave them out in the street, and you know, serve food.
Okay, I get it. You gotta be home for the dog.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I have a lot of experiences, and I love this dialogue. You know, and then you got to have communication. You know, I went over here to a training for FEMA, and every exercise had the failures were communication. Just talking to people. People just don't do that. Who goes to the fence and talks to the neighbor? So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, you're fine. If you would like to give a closing statement.
Well, I really appreciate the time you gave me, and can I turn and ask, did the future council people have any questions?
They will give you a call, and I'll share your information with them as well, so you can have that dialogue with them.
Okay. All right. I really appreciate this opportunity. I was really shocked when I got your call because I'm the outsider and I know how it is, but I do have some roots in here. And I do have experience that might help. Won't say, well, I'm not a miracle worker. It takes a team, it takes a community. And if the community's not accepting of something, say, well, we don't want that, then why push? You know, and find out, and it's a different culture here. But I come from mixed culture, and you know, I was born in Flint, Michigan. I live just outside of Wyoming, Michigan. And we have beautiful dialogue with everybody. You know, I've got, you know, I was shocked to see a Hebrew temple here, and that's wonderful. And I was looking for a mosque and a temple and everything else, and I just like the diversity. And that's one thing that I think my diversity experiences might bring here. And the bringing the community together and help things. And because we need to do for all. My job is to do your bidding to help everybody. Some of you represent the west side, which has a reputation. Some of you represent the east side that has a reputation. They all deserve equal service. And I believe in consistency. And people just need to understand. I'm sorry you have a pothole up on Fairway or a crack that needs to be sealed. You should go over on the west side and see some of those streets. You know, a little bump versus a whole street. You know, we need to prioritize things because you know what? They pay taxes too. And just because they can't afford your house, you have, you know, well, I pay more taxes. No, it's all equal. It's based on your values. So everybody needs equal representation, and that's a big thing. And a big thing is respect. I'm going to tell you, I was dressed like this and stopped in a party store, and I was the odd man out, you know what I mean? And I was the odd man out, and I greeted one person, next thing I know, we're all talking, having a nice conversation. And that was just wonderful. You know, let's jump in, we were talking about the federal government shutdown and stuff like that, but you can talk about a lot of things in line at a gas station getting on water. Hey, I go everywhere. I went to the Waffle House, and who did I meet? The county chair, and I went into a bike shop, and I met a friend, and it's wonderful. The networking, that's a small town. And, you know, most of my life I grew up in a small town, and that's where I learned values. I'm sorry I went on so long, and I hope...
No, you're totally fine.
And I hope to share my experiences with you folks. And, you know, I hope you don't ding me for education. I was almost there with a piece of paper hanging on the wall, which, you know, it's got a piece of paper, but I prove what I do. I prove it. So.
Thank you. We want to thank you for taking the time to come all the way out here and, you know, tell us about your experience, your background, and meet people all throughout the community. We really do appreciate it. And you have our information. If you have any questions or concerns, you can feel free to reach out. We will not be making a decision on tonight. We will be making it at a later date, and I will let you know as soon as possible.
Well, thank you. Anniston's worth the trip.
Thank you, sir.